I'm going to talk about human capital in China. Yesterday, a number of speakers mentioned human capital. It is a big part of China's growth and development. This work is joined with a number of my colleagues in other US universities, and especially in China Center for Human Capital and Labor Market Research, and with excellent assistance from a number of our graduate students there. So the purpose of this project is try to estimate and measure human capital in China and to capture its trend and the dynamics. So we heard about human capital very frequently, every day. So the concept of human capital was first introduced by Swartz and Baker in 1960s. This is considered to be the most important and original development in the economics of education for the second part of 20th century. So there are a number of different definitions for human capital. Now the definition we used for our measurement is the most recent OECD definition. It is a human capital is a knowledge, skills, competencies, and attributes embodied in individuals that facilitate the creation of personal, social, and economic well-being. And in business, we always talk human resource. Human capital is a core of human resource and they represent the quality of human resource. So we all know the importance of human capital for most of the country. Based on the estimate from the World Bank, human capital accounts for more than 60% of a nation's wealth, except those oil-rich Middle East countries. It is considered to be important source of economic growth and innovation, important factor for sustainable development, and it is also important for reduced poverty and inequality. It is believed that human capital played an important role in the magic growth of the Chinese economy. Our own research also shows that human capital is also very important for reducing regional inequality. But we all know the importance of human capital, but to measure human capital is still a very difficult task. Because based on the definition, human capital including knowledge, skills, competency, and attributes. So those are very difficult to measure. Normally in research and in policy analysis, people use some partial measurement like education attainment, okay? And the method for measuring human capital is also improving. There are different approaches. But in the international community, many countries started to do a lot of work to measure human capital, especially developed countries. There is an incentive, there is an initiative in OECD. They try to, now there are 17 countries join them, called Human Capital Initiative. They try to measure human capital in all OECD countries, try to facilitate cross-country comparison of human capital development. Because each country has a different system. Sometimes the measurement in one country cannot be compared with other country. So we have been invited to join this project as well. Now for China, this is especially an issue. People think China has very rich human resource, but we don't know what is the amount and what is the trend and the dynamics. There's no comprehensive measurement of total human capital in China for very well-known reason. The first is data limitation. So the data in China is very limited. And also, because of this reason, some popular method used by other countries for human capital just cannot be used. And also, even some data are there to collect the data, put it in e-file, and use it in calculation is a arduous work and very complicated. So this is really beyond the work a single or a small number of scholars can do. Need a well-organized research team. Okay, so our research is funded partially by National Natural Science Foundation of China, like USNSF counterpart, and the Central University of Finance and Economics. We have a center called China Center for Human Capital and Labor Market Research. We focused on human capital. This is an international center, and we have nearly 20 full-time international faculty, special term faculty, and fellows. We have a master program and a doctoral program, as well as postdoctoral program. So this team provides a base for us to do this infrastructure type of work to measure human capital in China. So our goal is to quantitatively describe the distribution and dynamics of human capital in China, and to provide a comprehensive human capital measurement for empirical study. Sometimes for empirical study, try to investigate the growth of human capital, we do not have a good measurement. And to provide some quantitative information for policymaking. Also, we try to participate in international discussion on methodology. For all this reason, we release China Human Capital Report on annual basis. So we released our first human capital in China, the report in 2009, and we just released the second one last year. So this year, plan to have the third one. So the method for measuring human capital is more like based on capital or assets or resource evaluation. There are three different major approaches. One is cost-based, based on how much investment you put in to measure the value, the market value. Another one is income-based, based on what is the revenue or income the capital can generate. And there are some other partial-based, like attribute-based and other based on education, for example, approach. Okay. Now, we adopt called Jorgensen from many income-based approach. So the idea is to estimate individual future lifetime income and discount it into the current value. Then it becomes the human capital for this particular individual. Then we aggregate together to get the total human capital. This is internationally the most widely used method. Okay. But the issue is GF method cannot be applied to China just because we do not have the data. Fortunately, during our work, Professor Dale Jorgensen from Harvard and Professor Barbara from Maine gave us a lot of help, and from Maine actually joined our research team. So she's a co-author of this paper. So we made some major improvement for the method. One is we combine the GF approach with the survey data, micro survey data. Second, we incorporate very well-known human capital model into this framework to make this measurement more closely related to human capital theory. And also, because of this, our measurement can also reflect the change of Chinese labor market and the change of, for example, return to education or to training. So we'll not get to the detail of the calculation because it has basically a few major steps. One is very large amount data collection and cleaning. Second is a very large amount data imputation because we have only every census data every 10 years, and we have some sample, 1% sample survey every 5 years, but we need very detailed population data. So it is very technical to do the data imputation part. And then we have parameter estimation, and after everything is done, we put them together to do a calculation. So this is really a large amount of teamwork. We normally, the team of 20 members, including our graduate student, need to work more than half a year to produce for the nation or for different province. Our goal is to build a panel data on human capital for each province for 30 plus years. So now I just introduce our main result. First, we found 2008, that was the latest year we have data. The total human capital in current value is 390 trillion. About 64% in urban, and the remaining is in rural area. Growth rate on average is like about 7%, slower than economic growth, but it's still very fast compared to other developed countries. And also, the growth rate is actually accelerating. You know, a lot of researchers think 94, 95 is a turning point for Chinese economy to have a structural change. So we separate into those two periods. You can see the growth is 5.23 and becomes 7.67. So growth is faster. And we also found the urban-rural gap is enlarging. This is mostly caused by urbanization and education. We will get to see some more result on this. And we also calculate labor force human capital, because total human capital, including those are in school, including young children, they are not on the labor market. This part considered to be human capital reserve. Labor force human capital, we just include those at the working age, like 15 above until retirement age. So we calculate labor force human capital. We found the ratio between labor force human capital, which means represents the active human capital in use, it's 0.5 to 75%. And rural is higher. This is very interesting. Even though the rural population is younger, but this part is higher. That shows for the same children or young people, their expected future education and income is actually lower, much lower than those in urban area. And we also see a declining trend, showing the declining reserve of human capital. This is likely to be caused by one-child policy, the aging population, and the education gap between urban and rural. So this is our estimate of total human capital. And this is the ratio of labor force human capital to total human capital. As you can see, rural is higher and there is upward trend. Okay. Now, to get an idea about relative magnitude and the trend of human capital, we compare it with GDP. So the ratio of labor force human capital to GDP is 8 to 13. It shows some kind of productivity of human capital. Assume GDP is produced by both physical capital and human capital. So declining trend, it indicates we have an improving human capital productivity. And also we compare labor force human capital and physical capital. We estimate physical human capital, and the method is actually Professor Carsten Hertz is here. We basically follow his method. We found it's actually declining, especially after 94. So it's an indication of over investing in physical capital, but we cannot make conclusion on that. And also we found physical capital to GDP is increasing, so showing a declining productivity of physical human capital. So here we can see human capital to GDP is declining and the physical capital to GDP is increasing. So relatively, human capital gets more productive. So we also have per capita human capital in rural and urban, and as expected, they are very slow. Even they are very small compared to total human capital. And there is a large gap between urban and rural. Okay. And then we try to find out what contribute to the growth of human capital. So we use a kind of, we call Divisa index, which actually is weighted growth. The weight is used the share of human capital. We have education-based, location-based, age, and gender. So we found education-based human capital increased at about 1.5. Location means urban and rural, more like the effect of urbanization. It grew at about 1.7. And the growth based on gender is flat. Based on aging, actually is declining. It shows this is expected because aging population. If there is no improvement in urbanization and education, China's human capital will decline. We also calculate the average contribution. It shows the average annual contribution of education to human capital growth is 0.86 percentage point. Urbanization is higher, it's 1.03 percentage point. So this is a growth based on age, gender, education, region. We can say urbanization on the top, education on the second. Okay, this is also the contribution based on different characteristics. So we say education and region is positive, gender is almost zero, okay, at zero, and the age group is declines negative there. So we try to continue to decomposite different index to say which part contributed to it. So this shows the growth of urban and rural population and their weight based on human capital. As you can see, urban population is growing and the weight is growing. That's why urbanization contributes to human capital growth, because rural population is declining and the weight is declining. Okay, so if we say education, this is even clear. So basically, on the left side of the graph shows the weight. We see the weight, human capital share is the weight for college, for high school, for senior high and the junior high is going up, but for elementary and illiterate is going down. So the weight shows contribution by junior high or above is positive. The weight is increased. Population shows the same. This is not population. Population on this different group of education show the same trend. The college educated and the senior high increase, junior high increase, but gets slow after 94. But other two categories decline. So put them together, we can find that the growth of human capital is mostly driven by junior high, senior high, and college education. Okay, but after 94, senior high and college education play a major role. So here are some time. Okay, here are some major conclusions. First, in China, both total human capital and the per capita human capital increase rapidly, much faster than other countries. The share of labor force human capital is rising, showing an aging population. And also we show urban and rural gap is widening. Also, human capital productivity seems to rising faster relative to physical capital productivity. Okay. And we also found the urbanization and education has been main driving force for the growth of human capital. Some main policy implications. So any policy promote urbanization, rural-urban migration. Quite a few, several speakers also mentioned this. Will help human capital growth. Education, especially beyond junior high level, will be the main driving force for future human capital growth. So that probably will be a focus for future education policy. And also we found an unequal education opportunity for rural and urban children. So we probably, government need to spend more to educate rural young people. So with all these policies, we'll continue to promote the growth of human capital in China. Thank you.